Hey Curiosphere, this is Pratham here.
And I'm Suraj.
So on this channel, each episode is a random open-ended conversation about some of the topics that have intrigued or fascinated us. We pick something random that we wondered about, bounce our thoughts, ideas and perspectives off each other from the unique bit of experience from books or movies, our own musics. So yeah, on today's episode, we're going to talk about destiny or coincidence and our take on what's what. So, Suraj, I wanted to start off with, something like, what do you feel when you hear about book titles like The Fault in Our Stars? Because I know you read a lot, and I just wanted to kind of get your perspective on that first before we tackle the main question.
I don't have any problem with that. I think it's for the same reason I don't have problem with if they have some sci-fi series and they take it too far, or as long as they have the science fact traits, like I'm fine with wherever they take the story, and even with the Fault in Our Stars or whatever such book titles. Like, I mean, it's for art, so everyone has their own likings, and like I don't have any problem with that. Even I would probably prefer reading some of them if it's good.
Okay.
What about you? Like,
I'm always a
you lean towards it, such titles?
yeah, well, in a way, because I feel like, to be honest, this particular title, at least, there's a, I don't know, like a literature quality about it. It gives you that image of like maybe shattered glass or something with a lot of dots of light or stars on it, at least for me.
Okay.
So, yeah, when I hear The Fault in Our Stars, it kind of reverberates with that fault, earthquake, or, and the whole unfortunate fault in our stars kind of theme. So yeah, for me, it's a little, yeah, I do kind of, it will attract me a little bit because I feel it has some literature value as well.
Nice. Or is it also because, like, I know you like anything related to space, so because there are stars, do you think you're biased because of the stars part?
Yeah, I was actually focusing more the fault part of it, but yeah, maybe that also.
Okay.
But it's just like, so what do you think, if of actors or writers or other accomplished folks when they say like, I always knew it was going to happen, or this was my destiny, and so like to address the main question, do you believe in a destiny?
Do you mean in the book, like in the story that they write, or in the actual life when they tell something
No,
like
just
that?
generally, I mean in the actual life, like they became accomplished themselves, and some of them you hear a lot of stories and they have this common theme where they're like, I always knew this was going to happen through their formative years.
I mean, it's their belief, so like I generally don't have any problem with whatever they say, but I personally don't buy into that. So we're talking about coincidences versus destiny here, and I would largely lean towards coincidence, but I would not go so far as to say that destiny doesn't have a role. And it's not because of the reason that many people would think. I have a very different reason for it. I'll come to it later. But what about you?
Okay. Yeah, I think, I don't know, to be honest, I am torn. There have been certain times where I felt very strongly about destiny or inner destiny, and not just from seeing some stuff or reading about people's lives, but even from some personal experiences. But even I'm going to save that for later in the conversation. But I feel strongly sometimes, and then sometimes I think maybe it's all in our head. So I guess I'm still, waiting to see how it plays out in a way.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm a little torn over there, but maybe I would lean towards that. I feel that there is a destiny, but maybe it's not all that people make it out to be.
Okay. So, given a choice, I mean, if you had to choose, you would lean towards destiny.
It depends on what you're talking about. I mean, of course, there are coincidences as well. It's not that everything was meant to happen. But yeah, I think certain things are can be attributed to destiny?
Uh, okay. Wait, then I have a question. Like, if you feel that there are certain things, or if you lean towards this destiny that those things were meant to happen, why do you think that only those things were meant to happen, and the other things that you attributed as coincidence, why do you think that that was just a coincidence?
Okay, that's interesting. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Hmm. I don't know. I think maybe certain really small, not that significant occurrences I would probably attribute to that. But again, maybe that's wrong. But something that someone has been feeling for a while, or waiting for something to happen, imagining it,
Mm.
and knowing, like, sometimes I don't know if you felt this about a few things or anything, but like you feel it in your bones that this is meant to be, kind of. And I don't mean in a romantic way, but just certain small things. So maybe that I would attribute, where there's some build up, maybe that and it finally does happen the way you imagined it would.
Oh,
Maybe that
okay.
I would like attribute to destiny, and certain other things, just like a small occurrence that you never thought of, I would attribute to coincidence.
Hmm. Okay, what if in our human Homo sapiens civilization and this entire era, there wasn't books or there wasn't storytelling, movies, anything like that? So I know that we are largely influenced by movies, especially Bollywood movies, where there's this destiny and that hero was meant to be, tagged along with that particular actors. So we kind of think like that, and when something happens in like that in our life, we definitely uh, call out to that. Like there's a reference to it, and we like to think that okay, this was meant to happen because that gives us a sense of importance. That okay, someone's watching over us and they have planned all this for me. So what if those movies or those external factors were never there? Do you think you would still would buy into the destiny?
Hmm. Maybe me personally, I kind of would, but I think maybe its significance wouldn't be that pronounced if that factor wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
But that's interesting that you bring that up. Because I feel like it's in one's experience that the origins of it start happening, but then you start really, well, for lack of a better word, believing in it
Mm-hmm.
because of a lot of external influence that, okay, you start feeling it that, yeah, this has to be what. So, okay, I want to counter that
Mm-hmm.
example of actors and stuff. Like, what, even in the scientific community or in certain other things, people, like, you do come across folks who say, like, this was my calling. I knew that I was made to do this, and this is what my life was for. In a way, maybe that sounds a little too, limiting it to only that thing and not including other aspects of your life. But what do you think about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't recall any such sayings from people of science. Like, I'm not sure, like, I might be wrong. Uh, but if you consider those sort of people, like, okay, let's take any field for that matter, whether it's science, movie, art, sports, whatever it is. Like they say that it was their calling, but they had a lot of years of experience, and maybe they were born into it, just like their parents would probably be in that profession, or it would be carried down, and they probably would have spent a lot of time practicing that or watching that sport or art or whatever it is. So when they finally achieve some success in it, they probably would feel like, yeah, it was my destiny, but it was mainly because they put in more time than anyone else in that field.
Okay. Oh man, I don't know. It just gets me thinking when we talk about these kind of things, because I can never,
Mhm.
like, I get convinced too easily. So if you give some strong stuff, so
Okay.
I'm like, yeah, that sounds right as well.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, actually, that's where I wanted to, bring about this thing that if it's too hard for us to believe like that it is coincidence, I think that's when we start believing in destiny, probably. And even the person who would believe in coincidence the most, I think there's a number of coincidences that they can tolerate, and beyond that, they feel like, okay, man, this cannot be a coincidence. There has to be some meaning behind this. Do you feel that it
Well,
could be true?
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong here, but like from from what I heard, it sounds like maybe some of the examples that you're thinking of are very low intensity ones. Like for example, someone just starts thinking suddenly that okay, this is destiny, that this happened. Whereas
Hmm.
at least in my head, what I'm thinking of is someone's, maybe along the time span of like years or even decades, that someone just knew that this is what they want to do, or this is what will happen eventually, and this is where they need to get to, and it's their destiny, and it finally did. And now in retrospect, they never wanted to kind of say it out, obviously, maybe not to jinx it or something, but they knew in their hearts and mind that this was meant to be. So at least that's what I'm thinking of. Like,
Okay.
does that sound? What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I basically got what you meant. So I might be thinking about some low intensity stuff, but you might be thinking about something of a
Grand,
more
like, yeah.
yeah, grandiose. Yeah. But okay, let me give you an example of what I'm thinking. So there was this guy who was okay. Just before giving that example, we know that it's very unlikely for you to get hit by lightning, right? Like there are few people who get hit by lightning, but it's still it doesn't happen so often. But there was this guy who got struck by lightning thrice, and even after he died, like 4 years after his death, his tombstone was struck by lightning again.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so that's like getting struck by lightning more than once in your lifetime is like, I don't know, maybe one in a million chance or whatever chance that is. So that itself is crazy. But he got struck by lightning 4 times. So you would think that, okay, this guy has definitely angered Zeus or something. But then if you start looking into it, that guy was actually a professional skier. That's one. So he would be in the top altitudes, that level. And lightning strikes about like 50 times per second near that area, wherever it strikes. So that's one.
Oh.
And so when you start looking at the facts, like start seeing the details of it, I feel you come to a conclusion that okay, I mean, it might not be that unlikely as we thought it would be, you know,
So it starts falling into the realm
initially.
of coincidence more.
Yeah, and given the history of human civilization, like we've been around for thousands of years, and like lightning has been there for like more than that. And there has to be one incident like this guy somewhere. Like it would be almost weird to not have an incident like this. So that's where I want to bring about the power of coincidence. That even though you think that okay, this is too unlikely to be a coincidence, when you start looking at the details, like it might be too chaotic for you to see that it's a coincidence. Those patterns, like you might not see any patterns in that, and that's probably when we start to decide that okay, yeah, this is too chaotic or too strange to be a coincidence. This probably has to be something, some power or some destiny that is directing this. So yeah, I think that would be my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And I think for sure, certain incidents which maybe people start talking about it as okay, there's some kind of a supernatural involvement or fate involved over there.
Mhm.
Maybe that is coincidence, or actually what you described, more reasonable, not even coincidence, that, that given the facts, or when you analyze the situation, you see that the likelihood of that happening was in fact higher than anything else. And probably people who are listening to that story live in some other place in another time, and it sounds very unrealistic to them, so maybe they start attributing it to that. But
Yeah.
actually, I also want to bring up one more point over here. So you mentioned like, given the history and lightning striking and everything, there
Mm.
has to be one incident where I actually kind of take issue with that reasoning, because I feel like the same thing is kind of applied even in the case of life on Earth, where a lot of scientists, or in fact the community, chooses to describe it as in this vast cosmos, there has to be, I mean, there would be one place where things would work out the right way, and it could be us. And maybe that's true, but you really don't know about anything about uh, the other times or other places. Like, for instance, there could be a lot of people in history that would have suffered the same fate as this guy, but you probably never heard of them. So when you hear of
Mhm.
this particular incident, you start saying, oh yeah, it makes sense. There has to be one, maybe, probably, in all of the. Like, you start calculating the probability because the bowl in which it sits is so big, the history and everything of it. And similarly for the universe, there's like so many galaxies and so many planets and everything, and you start attributing it to that, okay, the probability is really low, so it could be that that tiny probability is us, which I find to be like, you don't know about the history of the universe, you don't know about any other civilizations, we've hardly even seen any exoplanet or anything. So yeah, that's my take on that tiny bit.
Hmm. Thinking about that now. But if you consider that, okay, let's say there were like two, three other incidents like this guy who people who got struck by lightning, doesn't it kind of prove that coincidence like even more? Like, uh, see, it's not that unlikely to get struck by lightning.
Yeah, I know, I'm just saying, like, I agreed with that point that a lot of people would probably attribute it to that without being aware of the facts over there, but I take issue with that reasoning, kind of like that, using the probability to reason out of that thing which could have been or could not have been is just in general faulty. I'm not saying there would have been people in history that would have been struck so many times something, but I'm saying
Mhm.
there's that possibility and we never consider that. We just look at that
Ah,
larger probability and just decide, oh yeah, this is probably one random off event that happened.
yeah, I get your point. Yeah, that's one thing to take. And yeah, mainly I want to discuss about one thing, that is how how we came to know about the law of physics and how the laws of physics, direct us. And that's where I think destiny or like fate, it plays a role. So what I think is, I mean, even though like, the Big Bang happened and it all spewed out, that there's matter, gases, all these things everywhere. And using the laws of motion that we have now by Newton and Einstein, we can actually calculate where our universe is headed, where each planet, where it'll go, or how it was before. We can backtrack it. So that would probably mean that, okay, we can calculate the future given we know all the positions of all this matter. I think this again comes into the realm of, do we have free will? But
Yeah,
let's not get into the head of the human beings. But apart from that, do you think that like we can basically calculate everything, and as a result of this, it's all predetermined? At least the motion of planets and all that thing.
yeah, for sure. I think inanimate objects you can,
Hmm.
in a way, kind of get an idea of what's going to happen, or maybe the sphere of possibilities for sure. You know what's possible and what's not. Again, when we start putting people into the picture, it goes haywire. So I think
Hmm.
not really. I don't think there is a definite fate of the world or something like that. Maybe the way in which it proceeds kind of is a set path because of the way things are. Like, the speed at which you can progress, for example, the speed at which you can make discoveries is limited by certain things, by your population, by the amount of data you have available, the way scientific progress, for one, can happen. So I feel like maybe the path, or rather the timeline, is more or less kind of, that's the only possible timeline, maybe. But no, I don't feel like there is a larger destiny of the world or fate that it has to be this way. And that's something actually that not that I used to believe a lot in it in the past, but I used to consider it. But more recent years, I think I've kind of changed that. And, well, to quote from that movie Contact, the world is what we make of it.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I totally agree with that. Uh, Definitely. But also, like, I have this one point where, of course, let's say we can, definitely predict the motion of planetary bodies and also inanimate objects. And if we come to human beings, like the ones with consciousness and who can make conscious decisions, I feel that's where you start to narrow things down, and it comes into the realm of quantum mechanics, and that's where the decisions are made. And that's where I think the fate thing breaks apart. We probably can think that because because we are able to calculate every single particle, like if we knew them, we can calculate. It's all predetermined. But in quantum mechanics, it still is an unsolved problem. Or many people, many physicists, they believe that, okay, it cannot be further boiled down. We can apply quantum mechanics, like we can write equations for it, but we don't know how the decisions is made. Um, okay, have you heard of this probability wave function? Have you come across it?
Yeah, kind of, but I'm not sure that I completely get the
Okay.
significance.
In the most simplest terms, the probability wave function is in quantum mechanics. It's the probability of finding a particle at a given point in space and given point in time. And we can never truly predict where at with 100% certainty that it will be over there at this certain point and in time. So that's why it's a probability wave function. We can only give the probabilities of it. So the reason I'm relating that to it is when we boil everything down, this is the I feel this is the only place where we are uncertain. And you can calculate pretty much anything with Newton's laws of gravity or Einstein's general theory of relativity. But when it comes to quantum mechanics, this is where we cannot, with 100% certainty, predict where a particle will be. And this, for me, I think is the breaking point of that fate, destiny, or do we have that free will? And when you go deep into that, like there are two interpretations for it. One is the Copenhagen interpretation, and one is the many worlds interpretation. So Copenhagen interpretation that says that we can never really, of course, both the interpretation doesn't say that we can actually find that particle over there. So the Copenhagen interpretation in its most simplest terms is basically you have all these probabilities, the entire set of probabilities, and finally a decision is made. We don't know how a decision is made or what influences that decision, but a decision is made, and finally you will find a particle over there at some point. And all the other probabilities that we had, like say at 30% probability of finding somewhere over there or 15% over here, so all that will be cancelled out. So there's only one particle and we are in that reality. But if you think about many worlds interpretation, what that says is all the probability that we can describe from that probability wave function, when that function collapses, all those probability diverges into different parallel realities. So there is a probability of you and me being friends in one universe and probability of me and you never meeting in another universe. There is every single probability and there are different universes for it. So that's many words interpretation. So basically, we have these theories, and we don't know which one is true. We don't have the equipments yet to test it. But I feel that, and many physicists feel that this is where probably it stops. Like we can't go beyond that measurement. And I think this is the part where the true randomness takes over and the fate is not actually decided. So that's why, even though I was heavily, I do heavily lean towards coincidence, and even though I have some foot in that, the fate part, I think it would be this that there might be a chance that we wouldn't have completely understood quantum mechanics. But if this is the end of quantum mechanics, then yeah, I don't think there's fate or destiny or everything is predetermined for that matter.
Okay. I don't really understand that theory that much because, yeah, like I haven't gone into it too much, and I'm pretty sure even if I do, I'll have my own take on it and won't understand exactly what they're trying to communicate. But I don't know, like I feel like what applies to that small world of particles may not, I mean the whatever subatomic world, it may not necessarily apply to the larger macroscopic world of humans. I don't know how, maybe that's just because common sense dictates that it's very different than what we experience every day. But it actually, like, have you heard of I'm sure you would have heard The Scientist by Coldplay.
Yeah, yeah, I have.
Yeah, it just reminds me of a line from that song which goes like, questions of science and progress do not speak as loud as my heart.
Ooh.
So, yeah. So I don't know. So that's what I just feel like maybe the that theory or whatever is the interpretations applied to those to the particles and everything. But I don't know. Like I feel like maybe it's too young of a theory to still kind of get the right interpretation or see how much it applies in the larger life. Even though I get it, like the entire world is made of those particles, but like see, by finding that electron at a certain position in the atom is something very different to anything in our realistic world that we see. Do you get what I mean? Like I'm not sure if I'm
No, no,
saying
no.
it
I completely get what you mean, and even I was of that opinion. Like, why would that even matter? But then, if I may, like, if you take a look at it, we are nothing but just a part of our brains. Like, even if you chop off our hand or legs, we still are us until you start messing with the brain. So when we go to the brain and if we see how it communicates and how it works, like it works using electrical impulses, right? Like you have this tiny electrical
Mhm.
signals. So we know that all these electrons, like they are actually involved and they are the ones who's doing all the communication between the brain, I mean between the neurons and between neurons and the other organs of our body. So that's one. So then you have to start studying the electrical signals. So that's where you already find an electron. And we can definitely do that. We can study that and also influence that. But how that electron moves, like again, you have to go deeper, and that's when you encounter quantum mechanics. So quantum mechanics is always at play. There is there is no escape from it. Whether it's our hand, our table, desk, our brain, it doesn't matter. It's always at play. And only when we understand the source of it, then we can map it to the external world. And I mean, if if you look at it like they kind of are the external world. If you see all of the entire world as collection of atoms, it's collection of atoms. But we know that we can go even deeper than atoms. So now it's like quantum mechanics, all this quarks, gluons, and all those stuff.
Hmm. I just I feel like that translation from particles and atoms and molecules to your the functionality of your
Hmm.
brain and how it actually works really hasn't been made. Like you really don't know much about anything over there. All at least okay, maybe I might not be completely aware of whatever's the forefront of research in that category, but it's largely like misunderstood or not understood yet.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree with you on that.
So I feel like okay, fine, maybe it applies to the inanimate objects, so you can predict that, but I don't know about like you said, right, the
Mm,
human will and choice, how much it
mhm,
really matters in that respect.
mm. No, I definitely agree with you on the point that yes, we of course do not know quantum mechanics to the fullest, and we haven't yet, although we know how the electrons traverse and how those neural connections gets activated, we we haven't gone deeper than that. So there is still that gray area
Mm-hmm.
between that and reaching the quantum mechanics. But it doesn't mean that quantum mechanics is not at play because we kind of understand it. Like we have applications based on quantum mechanics. We have quantum computers. There is quantum communication, quantum tunneling.
Yeah, it is, but what I mean is like to our topic of destiny, and I feel it's back to human life, and if we if we start talking about this, it'll come back to that human will, and then if we go at it from that perspective of particles and atoms and everything, there is that gray area, like you said,
Hmm.
right? So you won't be able to arrive at a conclusion there.
Yeah, yeah, not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet.
I think another example that probably explains this a bit better and gives a really good example that we can all relate to is the coin flip experiment. So with a coin flip, we all know that if it's an unbiased coin, the result would be 50-50 chance of resulting it in a head or a tail. But if a result skews in a direction that you get heads 10 times or heads 15 times or even 50 or 100 times, you would think that, okay, that's very unlikely, right?
Mhm.
So, yeah. So now, if you just think about this very small experiment and you take a group of 10,000 people and you give each of them a coin and then you ask them to toss and let's say like around 50-50 gets 50 gets heads and 50 gets tails. So you make the people who got tails sit down. So you have like 5,000 people who got heads. and then you make them toss the coin again, and you have like 2000, let's say 50-50 again, and you have 2500 people who got heads.
Wait, they're tossing it once, right?
Yeah, they're tossing it once.
Okay.
Yeah, so you get 2500 people who got heads, and you make all the other 2500 who got tails sit down. So then you kind of repeat the experiment again, over and again, and then you would come to a point where only like one or two persons are standing, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So finally, when you get to that point, when you have the last person or last two people, those two people would have flipped the coin. If we started at 10,000 number, the last person would have flipped the coin at least 14 or 15 times, and he would have got it head every single time.
Okay.
Yeah. So just now increase the data set. Let's say instead of 10,000, we choose 1 lakh or 10 lakhs. So, and you start, you make them flip the coin, half of them sit down, flip the coin, go on like that. And finally, when you have the last person standing, last one or two people standing, they would have flipped the coin like 50 or 100 times, and they would have got head the 100 times. So we would think, if I just tell you that, okay, a person can get 100 times, toss a coin 100 times and can get 100 heads straight, people wouldn't believe that. But if you think about this as a probability, it definitely seems possible.
Man, that is interesting.
I know, right?
Yeah. Pretty crazy.
Yep.
I like these kind of thought experiments, but this one is actually like pretty. I'm just like still wondering. But then, like, if you consider the entire set, it does make sense. Like, I agree on the aspect that, when that one person, if you just tell, you are obviously likely not to believe it. But if you explain the entire experiment to someone, it makes sense. So finally, at the end of it, when what is really happening is believable and real.
Yeah, and I would argue that given a large enough data set, like you can find all sorts of anomalies, and it's almost expected that it's there.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. I don't know, like, if it would explain all of them. I don't think we can answer that, but yeah, maybe a good number of them.
Yeah.
Well, since we're talking about all this, like, I wanted to see your take on this quote by a famous scientist. Coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous. And guess who that scientist was?
Don't tell me it's Einstein.
Yeah. But it's actually something to think about, that line. It's really, it's kind of funny.
Yeah. Okay, I mean, I won't get into that quote because of the same reason that I don't get into all the other Einstein's equation, because I don't understand it.
No, but this has nothing to do with any physics or anything, right? It's actually funny that anonymous.
Yeah.
You would never think of using it in that context, right? Like a divine context.
Yeah, that's true. So have you come across this another one of Einstein's quote, that is, God doesn't play dice with the universe?
Yeah, I think I've heard that.
Yeah, so that's when he realized about, theories about quantum mechanics, and he really could take that, cat can be dead and alive at the same time and all those things. So he was like, no, it has to be determinable. And when Einstein said that, yeah, God doesn't play dice with the universe, I think it was Schrodinger or someone else. I'm not sure. Like he told Einstein, stop telling God what to do.
Yeah, I think it is one of those feuds of that 20th century.
Yeah,
pretty famous. Yeah. Which actually, like, what you said is true, and I know that quote. He actually believed that, and he said everything is determined, the beginning as well as the end, by forces which we have no control over, and it's determined for the insect as well as for the star. Human beings, vegetables, cosmic dust, we all dance to a mysterious tune, intoned in the distance by an invisible player.
Whoa, is this by Carl Sagan?
No, it's by Einstein itself. Like you said, right? He said, like, everything has to be determined, and that's the quote that he actually made or wrote in somewhere. Like, I'm not sure where, but because I remember it, like this specific one made an impression on my mind because of the last part where he says, "intoned in the distance by an invisible player." So, but okay, moving away from this. Okay, I'll tell you some experiences that I've come across, even though it is a bit vulnerable, but I don't know. It's just something that made me think, and in that moment, I felt very strongly, and then later I did overthink a bit about it and try to kind of analyze it. So one tiny situation. Okay, I just want to kind of know your take on this. Is so like every time I used to walk back from like on the metro station to my house, and I always take this path like always. Okay. And there's this childhood friend of mine who lives somewhere around there. Like, if I took a detour and went right, I would reach his house. Maybe like 300 meters or something in that direction. So this one day, I was just thinking about stuff coming back. Like, I always walk back home. So I was thinking about stuff and coming back. And for no reason, I just like suddenly thought of him. And, said, okay, let me just go in this other direction, like a detour. It's not the normal straight way that leads me home. And it just takes this other road and goes. And I actually thought of him because his house is in that direction and said, let me just go in that direction. And I haven't met this guy for years. It's just like on and off social media contact, kind of, maybe on birthdays or something. But I haven't met him in a long time. And I don't know, dare I say, as fate would have it, I ran into him on the street over there. And I mean, I'm very open with him, so I was just like, you know what, today's weird that I chose this path, and usually I always go here. And he kind of laughed, and he's like, oh, so you think it was meant to be? So, I don't know, what do you think about that? Maybe it's silly, and maybe, well, the data would point that, okay, he lives there, so it's likely that... I know you would say that. But what are the chances that just the day that I chose to go on that path, he would be walking around there? And it's not just like right there, it is like 300 meters off or something. So, I mean, whatever, it's a little off. So...
Wait, it was a little off for you, right? Like, it was still his own road. I mean,
no, yeah, it is a little off for me. It's like two roads diversion or wood kind of a thing. So I decided to take the other one randomly. And for him, it's a little out of his way. Like, I mean, from his house, he can go in any direction or any way to the main road or something. So it's not like always likely that he would take that particular path and, or on that particular day or every evening or something like that. Nothing like that.
Yeah, I mean...
Probably explained this too much and now it sounds very...
I mean, I've heard of so many other crazier things that even I feel that it cannot be a coincidence. I probably think like this is too easy to be considered as a coincidence and not as fate.
You mean the other way around? To be considered as fate and not coincidence.
Oh yeah. That took an embarrassingly long amount of time to figure that. Okay. I know of this one story that happened very recently with me. Just one of my friend, he took some random online test, and I think there was a range of results that you can get from 50 to I think 300 or 400. And he was just telling me, bro, I took this test and guess how much I got? I was like, okay, 134. And he just stopped. He didn't say anything for like 10 seconds. And apparently it was exactly 134.
What?
The result that he had got.
That's crazy. Come on.
Yeah, that was, and then I told him, bro, it's actually not the first time that's happening. I'm actually good at recognizing these numbers, like coming up with numbers that are like incredibly close.
Something random and that it just strikes.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it also happened like a few years back where my friend was saying that he came across a headphone which was way too expensive. And he asked me, guess what's the prices? He didn't say anything about the headphones, no specifications, no price range, nothing. And at least in this test, I knew the range of score that he could get, but here I didn't know anything. So I just guessed, okay, 17,500. And he was like, what the hell? It is actually 18,000. I was so close. I was just off by 500 rupees.
Maybe you should join some, I don't know, like a... Okay, I don't know.
I think all that I need to start trading and
yeah, something like that.
Predicting or going to casino.
Yeah. But yeah, it's weird. Like, I don't know if there is an explanation for things like that, or maybe I don't know, maybe some conversation would have happened at some point and we don't recollect, or something would have, something obviously made you choose that number, and you probably don't recollect it what it is. But maybe there is no explanation also. Like, I don't know if we can ever explain that properly.
Yeah. But I have one other thing to just add to this, okay?
Mhm.
So I've just told you the instances where I got it right, like where it was incredibly precise. But I don't think even I can recall the instances where I've got it wrong because it was just insignificant. And of course, anyone would get it wrong with that huge range. That
You're gonna do that probability thing again.
no, definitely don't worry, I won't do that. I'm just saying, um, when he asked about like what the price of that headphones was, if I'd guessed it like something like 1,500 or something, and he would say no, it's wrong, and we know that there is a very extremely high probability that you can get it wrong rather than you can get it right. So because it's definitely likely that I can get it wrong, we won't remember those instances, and definitely even I don't.
So this seems like an anomaly.
This because this is an anomaly, like we remember it very distinctly, and I feel that, or I'll start believing that, okay, I have this crazy power and I'll join a casino and then I'll lose all my money.
Yeah, when you put it like that, it makes you think. But I don't know if these kind of so actually, to be honest, it's happened a couple of times to me also. I don't recollect the exact instance,
Hmm.
but at least one I recollect is being able to tell the time exactly. Like, I've been doing something randomly for hours and I don't know what the time is. And this is
Okay.
before like having, like a proper phone and checking it like this, years back. Uh, and then suddenly someone asked the time and I was able to guess it like really quite within, like very close, a few minutes off
Hmm.
of what it was. But maybe that can be attributed to like a biological clock or something like that. But it's funny, like like I said, I don't think we can ever kind of explain
Hmm.
if it's just luck or, like you said, like only the times that you actually get it right, you remember.
Yeah. I kind of lean towards the second one, because I feel, I mean, whatever you described now, predicting the time, even I've done that many times. And like, if you just think about our generation or like anyone for that matter, how many times someone would have asked you a time,
Yeah.
someone would have asked anyone for time, and there's a high probability that they'll, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, probably 50-50 probability that they'll get it right or wrong. And if they get it right like few times in a row, maybe they'll remember it and they'll just forget the other times they
Yeah.
got it wrong.
But okay, fine. I want to run this also by you. Okay, this is a little, maybe it will get a little serious, but it's something
Okay.
that it really shocked me. Okay, I won't explain the details, but it's something like, so when in my family, it's like when people are born, they do get that thing made. I think the kundli or something, and
Yeah.
there's certain things written in there. It's like pages, huh? It's like a tiny book actually, almost maybe like 8 or 10 pages or something. And
Hmm.
let's chuck aside the astrological part of it,
Hmm.
but there's certain things written on there that your life might take a significant turn at this particular age, or some other stuff that's written that once you do this, things will really, something will change, or this aspect of your life will change, particularly the family aspect or whatever. And
Hmm.
I've seen that in some of those things made for my family members, like, and it's actually happened in their lives. Like, this was made when they were born, and it's actually like I have seen it happen in their lives, and I was shocked that it did. And to some of them, at least, like the older, like grandparents and stuff, it's like so obvious that yeah, most likely it would, because these things have always been, in a way, like there is some science over there, according to them. Like, for them, it's not a very
Hmm.
shocking thing.
Okay.
So I don't know what to make of it. Like, it was so surprising because I was skeptical also, but some things I used to kind of think that maybe it is possible, it's true. I'm yet to see how it plays out in my life and some people close to me. But this was quite a shocker, and these are all kind of kept in my native place at one particular place. So when I
Hmm.
go, I just sometimes like take one off and read it. Uh, so what do you think about that?
Okay. So about these kinds of stuff, like, okay, let me ask you this. Was there other predictions also made, or was this the only prediction that was made?
In a way, they are. It's kind of like it repeats itself in a different way. So, for example, what I mean is, see, there are sections in that. For example, if due to the influence of this particular aspect or this particular planet or something like that, there's different sections in that book. So, if it was talking about someone becoming really rich, if they did something in their life at this particular point in time, and you would get a lot of success and wealth from that. So that is also being caused by some other section in that book. So it kind of like, I don't know, okay, at least in my head, I think of it as constructive interference and think that becomes a significant thing. And I've seen that particular thing play out in that member's life. And in that financial aspect, not anything more has been mentioned. Do you get what I mean? Only the highlights, kind of, if I had to speak retrospectively, like looking back.
Okay, regarding this, I think I still don't know. I probably might need to look at an actual only to see what you mean. But what I think is they probably have like this other predictions too, which they don't consider when you get one right, and they don't consider the rest of it.
But really, it's not like, again, we're going into the probability thing, okay? And it's really not. Trust me, it's just like 8 or 10 pages. And that's why I was shocked myself, because you might think that, oh, it's just, telling you like 100 things and out of that 2-3 come and you focus on that. It really isn't. Maybe, I don't know, somehow I'll send you some pictures or something and make you read that. But you don't know the person, so I don't know how you... But anyways, I just wanted to kind of, see if there was anything else you had to take away from that besides what we discussed.
Yeah, I mean, see, I don't like jumping into conclusions when I don't have enough data.
Yeah, that's fine.
So like, I feel that, yeah.
I just thought like if you've come across this before and just,
I mean, of course, like being Indians, we definitely would have come across this and our parents telling us, see, this is what you're going to become.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what I would like to do is analyze every single, not every single, like a lot of like huge data set of Kundlis and see what the predictions was and what they have actually achieved in their life.
An experiment.
Yeah. So that's probably what I would do.
Hey, let me ask you this. Do you think there's any pros of believing in fate or destiny?
That's actually a good question. I can think of a con. I'm trying to think of a pro.
Let's go with the con really briefly, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So the con would be, I mean, very simple example would be like, you kind of lose in something, you try your hand at something and you fail initially at the first step and you're like, oh, screw it, like this was meant to happen. Like I wasn't anyway related to it. So probably you might not put in enough effort.
Okay, that makes sense.
And you think you're dumb, like you don't get enough marks and 1 or 2 times, and then you think that, okay, you're meant to be dumb and there's not much you can do. So you'll just stop working hard. So that's one of the cons in general.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you start attributing everything like, oh, like that's what you make an excuse. You use it as an excuse. Yeah. I get that.
Okay, I think I found a pro. I think the flip side of it is when probably you have a positive attitude and you get few things right, like two, 3 things at a row right, and then you start believing, oh, maybe I'm actually lucky, and you go for it. You start taking opportunities, and then you heard of the quote where you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. Yeah. So a person, the example that I gave for con. So I think he would be the ones who would not take the opportunity because he knows he's going to lose, and he would, however, either way going to lose. And the person who thinks that, okay, because he got like few things like in a row, he thinks he's lucky and he might actually benefit from taking more opportunities. Because he takes more opportunities, he bound to land somewhere in all those opportunities. So I think that's the positive aspect if I had to guess one.
Yeah, but I also feel like, okay, it may not always be like a lot of highs that you make the best of. In general, also I'll put it this way: it gives you a sense of optimism in general, is what I felt. a very mild, nice, easy flowing, continuous optimism that, okay, life will progress in its way, in the way it's meant to. Maybe not meaning that it'll anyways happen no matter what I do, but maybe not overthinking about a lot of aspects of it and just kind of keeping yourself free from quite a few things, not trying to control every aspect, because you feel like, okay, there is a general flow to it and maybe you want to kind of see how things pan out. Do you get what I mean? Like, at least that's what I've experienced in one way.
But I mean, I guess I have to disagree with you on this, just on the reason that you gave. Because, okay, let me tell you one thing. This can happen both ways, right? So let's say I experienced a streak of bad lucks, and I was like, okay, my life is bound to be bad. I'm unlucky in general. And see, I believe, okay, let's consider two people, A and B. A believes that both A and believe destiny, and A had a streak of bad luck, and because he believes in destiny, he thinks that he's bound to be unlucky. And B, he has a streak of good luck, and he thinks he's bound to be lucky. So both lives can go different ways, even though they believe in the same thing, even though they believe that such a thing called destiny exists. So I think the difference is the mindset. Maybe you just have a positive mindset, and regardless of whether you believe in destiny or not, you'll just get by because of your positive mindset or optimistic.
True, I agree. But I just feel like it kind of adds a touch to it.
Yeah.
Like it kind of gives you this thing to kind of take a backseat a little bit sometimes, maybe not all the time, and just kind of let life unfold in its way, not having to, it need not go your way all the time. It need not, you need not control every aspect of your life every time. Sometimes better to let things happen the way they are and then step in when you feel you found something that you want to take it in a different direction.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. But I don't agree with that being the source of it, like that would drive you to be positive or optimistic. I feel that optimistic is something inherent or depending on the situation. Like from that, this believing in destiny would add on to that if you're optimistic. That's what
But,
I
I
think.
mean, that's just my experience, and maybe, hopefully, a whole lot of other people also. It helps them. Okay, I want to actually also, this is one experience that I had when I was in college, and you know how the whole chaos versus order kind of argument goes, right? And at least like in science also, I used to always think there has to be a definite order of a lot of things, and you can't get to it from a chaotic viewpoint. Okay, it might seem a little, I don't know if you'll be able to see the relation the way I see it. It's a little different and weird. But, so have you come across the Sierpinski Triangle?
The what?
Sierpinski's Triangle.
Nope.
Okay, it's this kind of a little experiment. Maybe I can quickly describe it. So let's say you have a triangle, okay? And what you do is you pick a random dot anywhere in the triangle.
In the triangle or on the perimeter?
Inside the triangle.
Okay.
And you choose a random corner, A, B or C. And you walk half the distance to that corner. And where you stop, you mark that point with a pen or something like that, put a dot there. Now from there you pick another vertex, any of the vertices, and again you do the same thing. You walk half the distance from where you were to that vertex. And you keep doing this randomly, whichever corner you want to choose, whatever starting point you chose. No matter what you do, what choices you make, the final pattern you come up with will be the same pattern in all cases.
Final pattern as in?
The final diagram that comes up is called a Sierpinski triangle, which is like triangles within a triangle within a triangle, and it goes on. And it actually is a fractal.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so when I came across this, in a way it kind of reignited this argument in my head, because it was like even, not, I wouldn't say even in science, but even with something that's so mathematical, it was like, it's like no matter what you start from, the starting point you choose, and no matter which vertices you choose in what order, the final pattern that will come up will be exactly the same. So there's computer programs for it, and it uses random and stuff, and it always comes out to be the same. So in a way that, I mean, I kind of thought, okay, there's something over here as well where, there's no determined structure or order, but finally the outcome is going to be that no matter what you do.
Hmm. So, is the outcome always the same as in always chaotic, or always
No,
the
no,
same as
no.
in
The
always the same
structure,
pattern?
the fractal. It's always that
Okay.
fractal that'll come up, the Sierpinski triangle. Like, it's always
Hmm.
that particular fractal and pattern that'll come up. Irrespective,
Hmm.
like, if 100 people did that experiment in their own random way, all
Hmm.
of them would have the final same result.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, I know, right? I knew you would find that.
Yeah. Actually, this reminds me of other fractals also. I just forgot the name of those fractals, but even that's really crazy. So even that happens in rabbits dividing, like how they populate
Yeah,
and
I know
the
what you
water
mean.
dripping. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I don't know. Like, I'm not saying that this would be like some kind of a weird proof that even on the scientific side, or
Mm-hmm.
that it would conclude that there could be a destiny or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was so weird because it's like the same thought pattern in a way, at least when a person thinks about it. Because that's what happened to me when I came across it, and I was just like pondering over it for quite a while actually.
Okay.
So yeah,
Hmm. That's damn interesting, actually.
yeah. Check it out later when you like, and for everyone
Yeah,
listening in as well, if
definitely.
if you find that interesting, go check it out. It's called the Sierpinski Triangle.
Can you spell it?
I think it's Sierpinski.
Cool.
Yeah. What do you think about? I mean, I wanted to also kind of just bring in the movie aspect real quickly,
Hmm.
and well, when it comes to all these kind of things, I always get reminded of Kung Fu Panda. And there's this really nice,
Okay.
there's this really nice quote that Oogway makes, and he says, "One often meets his destiny on the road he chooses to avoid it."
Hmm. Wait, this happened in movie one?
Yeah. It's when
How
it's like
is that?
when that Tai Lung is, gonna, like, they say he will escape or heal this thing, and when like when he sees that vision and communicates it, these guys try to do some extra protective measures or send a messenger to inform the guard that the prison needs to be
Ah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. And then actually that step, the fact that they sent a guard, like something changed in that system, you get what I mean? Till now he was
Ah,
imprisoned perfectly and everything was good.
yeah.
So this quote like really rung with me. Like, I don't know, maybe it's always, in hindsight, it seems like it was always
Hmm.
meant to be,
Hmm.
but I don't know. It's just, and that movie is like one of those awesome animated movies. So
Yeah, definitely. I've seen. That's why I was surprised that I couldn't remember that line from that movie because I've seen it so many times.
watch it again. I think after this conversation, maybe I don't know, like maybe you'll be a little more
Hmm.
for that part. Just, I think you'll have some perspective there. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Man. We need to make Oogway t-shirts.
I think there are already some posters and cups and stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways, yeah, maybe we can wrap up a bit. So, any final thoughts, Suraj? Like, what is your takeaway from this? Do you feel any differently?
Hmm. I think I've just broadened what I already knew and what I already knew in the sense of the perspective, not the facts. So I still feel inclined towards believing that it's largely coincidence and destiny. Only when we finally answer the questions of quantum mechanics poses, I think, shit, that was too bad. Okay, I think the final takeaway here for me is as this beautiful quote by I don't know whom, but I've heard it from Neil deGrasse Tyson that says, "When our surface area of knowledge increases, so does the perimeter of our ignorance."
Oh wow. Okay. I was just trying to visualize it very geometrically. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's actually, I mean, that quote has stayed with me for quite some time, and I think the more we try to understand things, and the more we come across, uh, you know, unanswerable questions, at least at that time, the more questions it poses. So yeah, I think finally for me, I still would still lean towards coincidence and destiny until we unravel quantum mechanics. Probably, I think it's still we have the control over it.
Okay, okay. Well,
And what about you?
yeah, I don't lean too much to the scientific side of it. For
Okay.
now, at least. At least I feel like it's not really. I feel
Mm.
like that's the kind of stuff that might not really explain these questions. But maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? It could go into that side. But I think I would leave with a really nice line that I had come across years back, because I used to like go through a lot of quotes and random stuff like that, and this one really kind of stuck with me. And it goes something like, "We're not allowed to choose the frame of our destiny, but what we put into it is ours completely," which is kind of a middle ground,
Mm.
because it says like there's kind of a frame or a boundary, but there is still choice. It's not like either or.
Okay. Okay. I think this is something like we do have free choice or something that we can create for ourselves, but within the a larger boundary that has
Some set,
already been
exactly,
decided.
exactly. Which I feel like is worth considering.
Mm.
That idea could be really
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. I always root for middle grounds, so I think I'm okay with
Okay.
that. I can live with that.
Great. I'm glad. All right.
Awesome.
Yeah. For everyone listening in, I hope you guys found this to be entertaining, maybe provoking, thought provoking, and insightful. And just a disclaimer: none of the examples we use are supposed to be a concrete, point for an argument. So, yeah. I mean, it was just to see what one another thinks of some of the experiences we've had or come across. Okay, thanks everyone for listening in, and let us know your thoughts, comments on this episode. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and also on Instagram. Okay, thanks again for tuning in.